The abduction. Eden's Reach shimmered beneath the twin suns of Keeler Prime, a blue-green jewel cradled on the edge of known space. It was the kind of colony that made diplomats smile and bureaucrats sleep easy. No war, no unrest, just clean farms, gleaming solar arrays, and the laughter of children echoing through meadows. At the colony school, 10-year-old Leah Miles was deep in an art project, drawing the dark side of Earth, the way her mother described it in bedtime stories, a world of glittering city lights and thunderhead storms. She was careful with the shading, tongue peeking from the corner of her mouth. Around her, 20 other children worked in quiet focus. Above them, invisible to ground sensors, 6 ships glided into orbit like knife blades through silk. They were not human. Raina Miles didn't trust quiet days. She was on the observation deck of Eden's Reach control tower, watching the transport traffic through a cup of cold coffee. She'd spent decades in black ops before hanging up her rifle to raise Leah alone. She traded in war zones for supply chains, killing instinct for clipboard logistics. But that feeling deep in the chest, like a held breath waiting to exhale, never really left. And today it was loud. "Control, we're picking up a spike in orbital static," the tech officer beside her said, frowning at the console. "It's not ours." Raina straightened. "Cloak? I don't know. It's distorting gravimetric readings, but nothing on visual or radar. Could be a solar flare." "No," she said flatly. "That's a tactical insertion profile." The alarms hadn't even begun before the sky tore open. The ships came down like ghosts. No fire, no rumble, no sonic booms, just shapes that blinked into existence above the school and shimmered like broken glass. Doors hissed open. Figures stepped out, tall, angular, cloaked in armor that refracted light like obsidian water. They were the Alathkari. Leah's teacher shouted something. The children screamed, but it was over in less than a minute. Drones swarmed. Stun fields activated. Children dropped like puppets. Leah tried to run, tried to scream, but a jolt of blue fire hit her spine and the world went dark. The colony defense grid sputtered to life too late. Turrets fired wildly into the atmosphere, hitting nothing. Shuttles scrambled, alarms wailed, but by the time the first fighter reached the stratosphere, the alien ships were already gone. They took 23 children. No message, no ransom, no explanation, only silence. On the flagship of the Alathkari fleet, strategist Vrul examined the children through a containment window. He saw no threat. The small creatures twitched in unconsciousness, bound in stasis gel. Their minds, the analyst said, were primitive, curious, aggressive, but chaotic, unrefined. "These are them?" Vrul asked. "The apex of human genetic potential." "Yes, strategist," replied the biotechnician. "We sampled their records, each selected for cognitive elasticity, immune resistance, and behavioral volatility. They're ideal for the primogenetic project." Vrul made a clicking sound. "They look fragile." The technician shrugged. "So do eggs. Until they hatch." As they left the lab, one of the children stirred, Leah. Her fingers twitched against the gel. Her lips parted. The stasis field picked up a whisper. "My mom will come." Raina Miles stood in the ruins of the school, fists clenched. The colonists around her shouted, cried, screamed for help. The governor's voice barked over the emergency channel, calling for calm and offering hollow reassurances. The defense fleet promised an investigation. But Raina wasn't listening. She knelt by Leah's dropped data pad, still glowing with the half-finished image of Earth's dark side. It was then that something inside her clicked back into place. A lock she'd thrown away years ago. A switch flipped. The Reaper was waking up. The galaxy had forgotten what humanity could be when cornered, when something precious was ripped away. They would remember. Mother of Vengeance. Raina Miles sat in silence as the emergency committee argued over protocol and public image. The war room at Eden's Reach Command was filled with polished boots, polished lies, and people who had never bled on metal floors. "This is a diplomatic incident," Governor Halson said, running a hand through his thinning hair. "We cannot jump to conclusions without verification. If we act rashly, we risk triggering interstellar conflict." They abducted children. Reyna's voice cut the room like a blade. Yes, and we're requesting assistance from the Interstellar Council, Halson replied. We'll get them back, through official channels. Reyna's eyes narrowed. And how long will that take? Admiral Kepler cleared his throat. 30, 40 days for a council response. Then sanctions. Maybe negotiations. We're not a military state, Captain Miles. We don't send commandos into alien territory every time something goes wrong. Reyna stood, slowly. I don't care what you are, she said. You're not a mother. Silence fell. Then she walked out, leaving behind the hollow comforts of bureaucracy and the cold hands of compromise. Reyna descended into the basement of her home, triggering a retinal scan no one knew existed. A sealed chamber hissed open, revealing a room the government thought had been dismantled 10 years ago. Steel racks, tactical gear, weapons she wasn't supposed to have, armor bearing no insignia, forged from black carbon weave. The old world whispered around her as she stepped into it. She pulled open a locked case. Inside was a datapad with a name etched into the frame. NYX. With a flick of her fingers, the pad hummed to life. A female voice purred. Nyx AI online. Welcome back, Reaper. Reyna slipped off her civilian clothes and stepped into the bodysuit. Muscle memory guided her fingers. Her mind, once dulled by peace, sharpened like a whetstone. The Reaper, once a name whispered in alien bunkers, was alive again. Boot full warframe. Load stealth infiltration protocols. Power the Corvette. Confirmed. Preparing launch. She stared at her reflection in the polished obsidian of the visor. I told myself I'd never be this person again, she whispered. But they took Leah. She holstered her rifle. And now they've made a mistake. Nyx was more than a ship. She was a ghost, built for shadows and silence. Reyna's old crew had used her for infiltration missions deep behind enemy lines. After the wars, Reyna had hidden her under Eden's crust. Now, Nyx rose from a secret launch silo beneath the colony, silent as mist, leaving no trace. Reyna sat in the pilot's cradle, watching the stars stretch around her. We're tracking anomalous gravimetric echoes consistent with a Lathkri warp tech, Nyx reported. No official records, but I can extrapolate a vector. Do it, Reyna said. Reyna, you're one woman. I'm enough. You were enough before. But this isn't a mission. It's a war. Reyna's hand hovered over the activation switch. Then I'll end it before it begins. She began with the outer systems, places where fringe species bartered secrets for survival. The first stop was the black market satellite orbiting OS Talon, a spinning graveyard of ships turned smuggler's den. Reyna docked, walked through corridors smelling of rust and ozone, and made contact with a reptilian data broker named Case. You're supposed to be dead, Case rasped, eye stalks quivering. You'll be the second to find out that's not true if you waste my time, Reyna replied. Case clicked his jaw nervously and slid over a data chip. The Lathkri ships passed through here, paid in hemoplasmic shards. That's rare tech, biogenetic harvesting, not trading. Reyna's hands clenched. Where were they going? Can't say for sure, he said, but they routed through the Necro's belt. Only one reason to go there. The mine cradle, Reyna breathed. It's real. Case looked away. You'll never get close. It's orbiting a Class G supernova. The place is death. Reyna leaned in close. So am I. Hours later, as Nyx burned through dark space toward the Necro's belt, Reyna stood alone in the ship's sparring chamber, moving through a brutal combat kata. Her breath came steady, sweat slicking her brow. Each movement was a memory. Broken ribs, cracked helmets, blood in zero gravity. Do you want to hear her voice? Nyx asked softly. Reyna froze. I intercepted a comm log from the alien vessel. I isolated Leah's neural imprint. I can simulate her last words. No, Reyna said quickly. Then softer, yes. A recording played. Leah's voice, small and tired. Mom will come. Reyna closed her eyes, head bowed. You're damn right she will, she whispered. Confirmed. Preparing orbital approach to the Necro's belt. The stars ahead glowed like dying embers. Somewhere beyond them, her daughter waited. The Reaper had returned to the hunt, and this time, she wasn't fighting for orders or politics or vengeance. She was fighting for love, and nothing in the universe was more dangerous than a mother with nothing left to lose. Blood in the stars. The Necro's belt wasn't a place so much as a warning. A shattered expanse of rogue asteroids and broken moons, it spun in slow death around the bloated red star Jor's maw. Radiation storms twisted light into sickly spirals. No sane species built anything here, except the Alathkari. And Raina Miles wasn't sane anymore. Nyx shimmered into the belt cloaked in quantum shadow, slipping between jagged rocks and decaying orbitals. On the horizon, nestled in the eye of the storm, was a structure that shouldn't exist. The Mind Cradle, Raina murmured. It was a leviathan of bone-white metal and glass, wrapped around a decaying planetoid like a parasite. Lights pulsed beneath its surface like veins. It had no windows, only surveillance nodes. No hangars, only absorption ports. It didn't want visitors, it absorbed them. Confirmed visual, heavily shielded. Graviton lattice too dense for direct strike, Nyx said. Then we don't strike. Raina stood from the pilot cradle and locked her armor. We infiltrate. The cradle's perimeter was silent. Raina slipped through a decompression hatch meant for microdrones, crawling through a vein-like maintenance shaft. The walls pulsed with ambient energy, living metal tuned to neural frequency. It was a machine that breathed. She dropped into a corridor. No alarms. No guards. She moved through the hall like a shadow, her visor feeding her real-time readings. Air thick with bioagents. Humidity matched human baseline. Ambient temperature, optimal for growth. This wasn't a prison. It was a farm. In Lab Wing Theta, 3 Alathkari scientists studied data streams showing human neural growth patterns. Holograms flickered of children's brains lit with emotional spikes. Fear, hope, rage. They debated which traits were most harvestable. The center console went dark. Then the lights. A shadow moved behind them. By the time the first scientist turned, Raina had already fired. Silence bolts. 3 perfect shots. No screams. No bodies left behind. She dragged them into a waste duct and wiped the cameras. The next lab was a gene forge. Rows of cloned human limbs floated in nutrient tanks. Raina planted a microbomb on the core. She moved like death incarnate, striking and vanishing before alarms could register. AI-guided subroutines let her map the station in seconds. She was everywhere and nowhere, just like in the old wars. And the Alathkari began to panic. Strategist Vrul watched the footage with growing horror. How is she here? He demanded. She should not even know of this location. Technicians scrambled, issuing lockdowns. Security grid is failing. Internal systems are being overridden. She's inside our neural loop, strategist. She is one. We are thousands. A silent pause followed. Then a tech spoke quietly. Sir, she's killed over 100. In under an hour. Vrul's mandibles clicked once. She is not human, he whispered. She is a weapon. He didn't realize how right he was. Raina slipped into a holding chamber filled with cryopods. Her heart stopped. Children, not just humans, varnish hatchlings, sorry-eye fawns, even a few mutated clones. Rows of them, suspended in stasis. Her visor scanned until Pod 87B, Leon Miles. Alive. Stabilized. No neural disruption. Raina's knees nearly buckled. She placed her hand against the glass. Hang on, baby. Mom's here. But the console locked her out. Leah's pod is linked to central control, Nyx warned. Force extraction will trigger termination protocols. I need the core schematics. Already mapping. Suggests strategic chaos. Raina smiled grimly. My specialty. She began setting charges. Generator nodes. Biotech hubs. Control AI cores. As she moved, explosions echoed behind her like rolling thunder. One lab burst into flames. A cryotube chamber vented into space. Sirens wailed in every language. The cradle turned into a haunted house. Alathkari warriors finally deployed, tall, spindly, armored in reactive synth plate. Reyna tore through them with ghost-like efficiency. Her combat AI mapped their weaknesses, joints, neck seams, weak points at the heart node. She killed without mercy, without pause, but not without purpose. Every death was one step closer to her daughter. Vrol activated the station-wide comms. Human. Speak. Reyna answered. You don't get to talk to me. You are impressive, dangerous, but futile. We have done nothing you haven't done yourselves. Experimented, modified, controlled. We don't harvest children, she spat. Do you not? Vrol replied. Your past is soaked in blood, but your fury only awakens when your own are taken. Curious. You didn't just take humans, she said. You took mine. That is not rational. Reyna smiled, blood on her cheek. Neither am I. She breached the control core, an immense chamber of glowing synaptic threads, pulsing like a brain stem. At its center, a living AI node, half machine, half conscious biomass. She stepped forward, planted the final charge, and raised her rifle. You destroy this, you sever every child's life support, the station's AI warned. Override code. Reaper Delta 9, she growled. Transfer all child pods to external storage and prep ejection. Impossible. Unauthorized. Reyna held up a glowing shard, taken from a Lathkari officer's neural spine. Try me. The AI obeyed. One by one, cryopods were transferred to magnetic sleds. Reyna sprinted to the main docking corridor, watching through the viewport as the pods were ejected into space, where Nyx began scooping them up in a timed retrieval arc. Leah's pod was last. Reyna smiled in relief, until the doors behind her blew open. Vrol himself stepped through, towering, armored in command plate. He carried a psionic lance, humming with focused mental energy. You, he hissed. Reyna said nothing. She charged. The fight was brutal. His strikes shattered the floor, sent sparks flying. Her rifle was shattered. She switched to blades. Blood, both red and black, splattered across the walls. He caught her in the ribs with a strike that nearly folded her. You are dying. Reyna spat blood. I've been dying since they took her. Then she hit her wrist detonator. The mind cradle erupted in a cascading chain of explosions. As debris scattered into the storm-racked void, one shape burst from the fire. Nyx, engine screaming. Reyna was slumped in the co-pilot's seat, bleeding, burned, but breathing. Leah's pod sat beside her. Pod integrity intact, Nyx confirmed. Child is stable. Reyna touched the glass with trembling fingers. She's safe. You are not. We must seek medical aid. Reyna shook her head. Take us home. Reaper, you won. Reyna leaned back, eyes closing. No, I just got her back. Predator's price. The twin sons of Eden's Reach rose quietly over the battered colony, casting long shadows over what remained of the control tower. The scars of the abduction were still fresh. Burned earth, cracked buildings, the echo of sirens and sorrow. But today, something brighter returned. Nyx streaked through the atmosphere like a phantom star, trailing controlled fire behind her descent. She landed without clearance, without ceremony. The ground crew barely had time to react before her side hatch hissed open. Reyna Miles stepped out, limping. Her armor was scorched and fractured. Half her face was bloodied, and her right arm hung useless at her side. But she carried a stasis pod in her good arm. Inside, Leah slept peacefully. The crowd was silent. Then a gasp broke the stillness, followed by shouting, tears, hands reaching out. Other cryopods descended next, ejected from Nyx's storage bay. 23 children, all alive. Reyna collapsed to her knees, not from pain, but from the overwhelming relief of victory. 3 days passed before she could stand unaided. Medical crews stabilized her and the children. Reyna refused to be sedated. She stayed by Leah's side as her daughter slowly emerged from stasis. The first word out of Leah's mouth was, Mom. Reyna didn't speak. She just pulled her daughter into her arms and held her until they both cried. The governor offered her honors. The fleet offered her reinstatement. The Interstellar Council demanded answers. Reyna gave none of them what they wanted. I didn't do it for medals. I did it because no one else would. That shut them up. Word of what happened spread, quietly at first, then like wildfire. Not officially, of course. The Alathkari denied involvement. The council tried to bury it under layers of diplomatic varnish. But stories leaked. Stories of a ghost ship cutting through a war zone, of labs destroyed, children saved, and a reaper who walked alone into hell and came out with what mattered. Human colonies whispered her name again, not with fear this time, but with reverence. Predators, the kind that once saw humanity as soft prey, started to reconsider, because someone had reminded them what humans became when cornered. Weeks passed. Liao was recovering well, laughing again, painting again. She didn't talk much about what happened in the cradle. Reina didn't ask. Some wounds healed best in silence. Reina spent her time alone in the highlands, repairing nicks by hand. She spoke little, smiled rarely, but moved with purpose. Something had shifted in her, not just reopened, but reshaped. The Reaper was part of her now. Not just a name, not just a mask, but a truth she could no longer hide from. Then, one day, the knock came. The envoy was a Alathkari, unarmed, alone, wearing no armor. Reina met him at the edge of Eden's reach, hands folded behind her back, eyes colder than space. "I come not for battle," he said, "but for understanding." She didn't respond. "You destroyed the Mind Cradle," he said. "Killed strategist Vrul, dozens of researchers, hundreds of guards. You crippled one of our most secret programs. You took children," she said. He tilted his head. "We underestimated your kind. That was our error." "No," she corrected. "Your error was thinking we wouldn't come for them." The envoy paused. "You've reminded the stars what your kind is capable of." Reina narrowed her eyes. "Have I?" The envoy turned to leave, but glanced back once. "We will not forget this lesson, nor will others. You've made humanity feared again." As he vanished into his transport, Reina stood alone on the ridge, wind catching her hair like a banner. Feared again. Not always a good thing, but maybe necessary. Later that night, Reina sat beside Leah's bed. The girl had fallen asleep, clutching a stuffed tiger and a sketch pad, half-finished drawings of space battles and starships covering the pages. One looked suspiciously like Nick's. Reina brushed a curl from her daughter's forehead. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I never wanted you to see this side of me." But the truth was, it wasn't just about Leah. She had seen what the universe was really like. It wasn't fair. It wasn't safe. It wasn't just. And someone had to be the monster the monsters feared. In the morning, Reina received a message on a secure channel, encrypted, off-grid. A single line. "There are more cradles. And more children." She closed the message without replying. Then she walked to the hidden hangar. Nyx was ready. As the ship powered up, her old armor locked around her frame, one piece at a time. Her breath calmed. Her heartbeat slowed. She wasn't angry anymore. She wasn't grieving. She was focused. Leah stood in the doorway, small but steady. "Are you leaving?" she asked. Reina knelt in front of her. "Only for a little while," she said. "There are others who need help." Leah nodded. "Will you come back?" Reina smiled, small but real. "Always." As Nyx rose into the sky, the colony watched in silence. No celebration, no fanfare, just awe, because they knew what that ship meant. Out there, somewhere, someone had just made the same mistake. They thought humans were weak. They thought they could take from them without consequences. They thought the stars were theirs. They forgot about her, the universe's most relentless predator, a mother.